Hello, Jacob.
Hello, Simeon. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm quite well. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Thank you for having me on your lovely set here.
I'm glad that you were able to make it.
Yeah. Do you know why we're here, though?
I forget. I don't sleep, so my memory is... Hello, Simeon. How are you doing today?
Well, I've brought you here to discuss, quite frankly, yourself. Because the Phantom Ranger has finally been released in the Lightning Collection lineup of figures for the Power Rangers under Hasbro. And if you don't know, I'm sorry, massive spoilers, but this man plays the Phantom Ranger in his own fan film series.
You want to grab that over there? What's that we got right over there?
This is my first time actually holding it.
Yeah.
That's a thing you put on your face quite often.
Yes. The armor is over in the other room right now. I've been doing a lot of filming with plenty of stunts and whatnot, which has been exhausting because
yeah.
I'm an old one of them elder millennials.
Anyways, action figures.
Yes, those childhood.
I understand you haven't messed with this thing yet.
I haven't. I have my own, but I haven't removed it from the box yet because It was a birthday gift that arrived approximately 6 months after my birthday.
Why don't you go ahead and take him from me? Because
here we go.
In my opinion, and quite a few other people within the toy collecting sphere, this is the best figure in the line so far.
This is high quality, I can see.
It's entirely an original sculpt.
Yeah.
The chest might be reused, but it's a new overlay. And the articulation is just perfectly on point.
I can't imagine that there's any other figures that be using that chest piece.
And it
has the buckle engravings. I've had to get to know this piece very well in order to construct the armor for the show.
Yeah, and it's a rare figure for the line in that every single little detail is actually painted on, all the little buckles and stuff down to the boots.
Yeah.
Which
even I have not gone to that level of detail on the costume that I use.
Yeah. Which is just fantastic, and also he comes with a lot of accessories that are entirely appropriate for him. You of course get the standard alternate hands with the line.
Of course.
And then he comes with
ways of
what they called his
gripper.
They called his Phantom Laser,
on
the Fan Friday stream.
Which is obviously incorrect because that is a Turbo Navigator.
Mm-hmm. But it's the first time it's been in the line, so I guess it's okay.
Yeah. Well, the Phantom Laser, nobody has never been seen outside of One Last Hope from Power Rangers Turbo. It's the only time it ever appeared in the show. It's the only time it's ever appeared in any media. Every time he's seen anywhere, even down to the original 1997 figure with spinny chest, had the Turbo Navigator with him.
Yeah.
And I think that was just due to a lack of coordination and communication.
And it's also been clear that as much as I don't think they're as bad as some other teams at Hasbro right now, the Power Rangers team is very much we were given an assignment and we're learning as we're going.
Well, one of the really funny things is I've actually asked one of the designers for the Renegade Studios Heroes of the Grid game why they used the Turbo Navigator and called it the Phantom Laser on one of the cars, and it's just he's like, well, basically they called it that in Legacy Wars, which was basing things off the figure, and so it's just one of those things where it keeps reiterating that somehow has become his default weapon in almost every media, without him ever actually using it in any story.
That's hilarious, and it's very indicative of how the toy industry works, because once somebody leaves, they take all their knowledge with them.
Right.
And that's a thing in any company. Pixel Dan just recently put out a book about every Masters of the Universe toy line, and most of the research he did was with other fans. He couldn't go to Mattel and say, hey, can I look at your archives? Because they didn't have archives.
Yeah, the historical knowledge was not there. Now, that being said, I do like the quality of the little Turbo Navigator accessory. They don't quite have the detail on the Car Ranger logo, but still, it's still a painted accessory, which you do not always get with multiple colors and everything.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he comes with not one but 2 effects parts, which is a little unusual for the line. There's a few ones that they tend to cycle through, and this is actually one of them. We've seen this on a ton of releases.
Yeah, I've seen this, I believe, on the putties.
Yeah, because it's meant to be a blast effect.
Yeah, because if there's one thing we know about Phantom Ranger, he's always getting, he's always taking hits to the chest and getting blown up.
But then he can fight back because he comes with a brand new effects piece that, at least I'm sure it's brand new.
Yeah, it's...
and it's designed to plug into either his blaster or there's a hole on his chest.
Right, which I think is great for the Power Ruby Blast, which I've done a few times in Power Reviews. Or I've done it once in Power Reviews so far.
And most of the weapons in the line have had little holes on the end of the guns that this can also plug into. So if they keep putting this with figures,
this is him in the middle of reenacting Platoon.
Yeah. Or Saving Private Ryan, or potentially one of your most recent reviews.
Yeah. Phantom Ranger's always getting beat up. It's one of the things that makes him so lovable.
Yeah, but like
he does have like this
incredible torso range.
He does. I think he has better torso range than I do when I'm wearing the armor. Because I'm not gonna lie, that armor is tricky to move around in.
And that's a thing with a lot of Hasbro lines right now, is like they of course have their Star Wars line, and they're doing a lot of Stormtrooper figures that can move more than people in actual Stormtrooper armor can.
Right. Like, I'm looking at the positioning here of the belts, because one of the kind of odd things about his design, he has basically 2 belts, one over the other, which is, I'm not gonna lie, really annoying when you're wearing it.
I bet so.
Because, you know, it's always, the higher up one is always trying to slide down. The other one is over your hips, so it's constantly tearing. But they actually designed it really well here, so they've got a joint right between them, so he still has that little range of motion without them getting in the way. So that's quite clever. I like that.
Yeah.
And he's got a little bit of the wiggle motion here and here, underneath the chest armor.
I also really like the ball joint on the stem they did for his head. It's one of the more well-ranged head joints in the line. Like, you get a good bit of tilt for such a bulky helmet.
See how he does with his... I can still kick higher than him, I think.
Yeah.
I've got a good high kick.
He does have a better spread than most Spider-Men, though.
That's crazy to me.
That's been a weird thing with Marvel Legends. Not a lot of Spider-Men have great leg articulation.
Strange. Spider-Man's such a heavily articulated character.
Though I do actually have what is considered to be the new gold standard for Marvel Legends here.
Oh, yeah?
Me. I have the Retro Collection Black Card Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
Black Suit Spider-Man.
Nice.
Who has actually better range than that.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. Well, now you're just showing off. So.
And you can see there's also like different cues that are taken from each line, because this is Hasbro as well, but it's a different design team. So we can just pop him right there. And I've got some other figures from the line for us to compare them to, because what we did want to open with talking about this figure, this video is very much supposed to be about the line in general, because Lightning Collection has been going on for, I want to say, about 3 years now.
Yeah. Well, it was throughout first 2 seasons of Beast Morphers, and now Dino Fury just wrapped up its first season, so yeah, about 3 years. It was announced back in summer of 2018, where we got to first see that White Ranger figure.
Yeah, so we've got a good feel for the line and the kind of things it will and won't do at this point. Right. Well, also, I feel like it has very much proven itself to a certain extent to the higher ups at Hasbro, and it could start going to different and exciting places.
It's amazing how many figures they've come out now.
Because there's a lot of seasons they've covered, and there's a lot of seasons they still haven't gotten to that a lot of people are begging for. I know particularly somebody who definitely will watch this video is wanting RPM figures.
Yes.
And like... I very much get the want for that. I would want some of those figures based on just liking the characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But those are suit designs that I don't know if they're going to be super friendly to Hasbro's current design philosophy.
He needs his Dr. K roommate.
That's
Hasbro,
true.
Get him his Dr. K roommate.
Where's our 2-pack of the Phantom Ranger and Dr. K exclusive to Power Morphicon?
Exactly. We need that. One thing that I do find kind of interesting is one of the very few bits of detail that I'm surprised they didn't quite do is the different coloration on the brow.
Yeah, that is weird. That is a slightly odd detail, but again, it's also something so small that you don't necessarily miss it until you have this comparison going on.
I mean, again, I'm somebody who's had to study Phantom pretty in depth, but even on the box itself, you can see that they actually did silver for the brow instead of the more bronze.
And there are some suit designs where they've definitely left out very important details, and the fans have gotten back at them. I actually have one right here, the Walgreens exclusive Dino Thunder White Ranger.
is this with the original face?
I have both heads.
You have both heads?
Because it infamously originally came in the package with this head.
Yes, I know, without the black lining around the visor.
Which, honestly, now that we have both heads, I like this head just because to me it looks like he's squinting like Spider-Man.
It makes him just look like he's just like, go ahead, make my day.
Yeah.
Which is very much an Ibera killer kind of thing.
But it infuriated people at the time because a big part of why this suit is so great is this helmet design with the black outline. So a lot of fans complained. Hasbro responded by offering a replacement program that, to my knowledge, they're still honoring to this day. You can still go to their customer care and get one of these new heads.
There was the similar issue with A Squad Pink having the wrong shaped visor, and now those replacement heads are gone. But
there's also some they've missed. Like, you're the first person I've ever heard actually call out the bronze thing with the Phantom.
I'm surprised that nobody else has pointed that out. Because it's one of the more prominent things. And that being said, it doesn't detract from the design. It's something that it's a sort of paint app you could very easily do yourself, and I can't entirely blame them for wanting to do one less painting of color.
Mm-hmm. And there's also some things people have been talking very much about is a lot of people want a re-release of MMPR Red because he has silver trim on his visor, even though in the show he has the white.
Yeah. It's strange. The little details they'll sometimes get off, and it's odd because it's so detailed otherwise that some of the details that get missed are just strange.
Like, once you pop the replacement head on it, this is a fantastic figure.
It's gorgeous.
The only problem I had with it was they didn't do his pads on his gloves here, so I just hit those with a little bit of Sharpie.
Oh,
okay. Looks great.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he had
but I know there's also people who will get really mad that they don't detail the morphers, and I'm like, that is so. How do you expect somebody in a factory to do that?
That's a level of detail that would be fantastic, but is not necessary.
Yeah, like Figuarts. If Figuarts didn't do that, I'd understand getting mad. But a $25, because that's the other thing. We've recently had a couple of price hikes with this line.
Actually, I think I have an old Trent figure that I'm tempted to grab from that stored back there.
Yeah.
Just so you can see like what Bandai was putting out when Dino Thunder was actually out.
Okay, so we're back. Jake couldn't find what he was talking about, but describe it to them, and maybe I'll be able to find it.
Okay, it was the it was like the Automorphin like transform into the Dragozord figure. Where he just has like this giant torso and wings and like things out his elbows.
Yeah, people think the reversioning is the only time stuff like that happened for some reason.
Like transforming into the Zords is actually something that they did as far back as Zeo.
Yeah.
I have definitely not here. This one's definitely in storage back in like my parents' attic. Because I do not have that much space in this apartment.
One day.
But I do have a Zeo Ranger 4 Atom that transforms into Zeozord 4.
I think I've actually seen some pictures of that.
And that thing's actually pretty great. But
no, because those toys are wonderful for kids, but they just make collectors blow a gasket.
Yeah, I've got Mystic Force Swords that all turn into Mystic Force Rangers that turn into dragons. I've got the Black Spirit Ranger that turns into a bat. And they're pretty lazy Transformers for the most part. It's just like, okay, fold over this thing, fold over their knees, it's a bat now.
Yeah.
I don't care if it has wings as a ranger. ignore the wings when it's a Ranger. I don't care if it has, like...
Or just enjoy that as part of the design now.
Exactly. That's just it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade. It's a battleizer. We'll call it a battleizer.
But now I've got the rest of the figures from Lightning Collection that I brought out.
Yeah.
I've got Bridge here, obviously, because I had to bring Best Boy. And he's just a really good example of what a standard figure in the line is.
Yes, that's true.
The only qualm I really have with him...
It's the lack of toast.
Yeah, there's no toast accessory.
How did he not come with toast?
But also, like, I would have liked if they could have colored in the little black outlines of the badge on his shoulder. Well, the fact that it's there is awesome.
I mean, that would have been a very fine detail, much like, like painting the Morpher.
Yeah, that's my nitpicky kind of thing. Because it is also, there's been some inconsistencies with the SPD team where, like, some of them, like Bridge, it's sculpted on.
Yeah.
Other ones, it's just a tampo. It's just a paint app. And it does have the outlining.
Now, is that between the male Rangers or between male and female?
Oh, it goes back and forth.
That's really weird. You'd think that all the male Rangers would have the same sculpt.
I think it started off as a tampo, and then at some point, it may have been that both Jack and Sky have tampos, and then with him they went, oh, we could spend a little more money here, so they sculpted it. All the teams we have represented here, these are teams that are like very close to completion, but aren't there yet.
Yeah, they're like, well, we haven't seen Turbo, but
he's marked as in space.
He's marked as in space, and we do believe have all 6 Space Rangers now.
They're all technically out, but not. It's been very hard to get a hold of Silver.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place.
Because Silver is supposed to be a Walgreens exclusive, but the only place he's actually shown up is some Malaysian retailers, I believe.
I think he's the most recent of the bunch, though, right?
Yeah.
And we do at least have the full 5.
Yeah, we have the full 5 because we got Cassie in the same wave as him, which is a brilliant choice.
That's beautiful, and I love it. I'm really surprised that out of all the figures to be the first one released with a vehicle, it was the Omega Ranger with the unicycle. Yeah. Did not see that one coming.
I guess they thought nobody would buy him if he didn't have something extra going on.
I don't know. That's like extra though, because he only drove that thing around like twice.
Yeah.
Like I remember it being in his premiere episode, and I'm honestly a little hard pressed to remember a different episode that it appeared in.
But then we've got other really awesome things in the line, like, yes, this line has been very MMPR heavy, but it's allowed us to get some really cool things, like highly articulated figures of the putties.
Yeah, I didn't realize that these belts rotate. That's a separate belt.
It is a separate overlay piece, which I believe is a very common practice. Well, I know it is because I have a ton of them, but it's a common practice in Marvel Legends. To have just like a base body where if like there's a glove or something like that, the end of the glove will be an overlay piece.
Right.
But you've got the putties, which are just brilliant little figures with their arm attachments.
Oh, right, and they do the full forearm replacement instead of the instead of just from the wrist up.
And I believe this was the first time Hasbro had done anything like this for their 6-inch collector's lines.
Yeah.
The only other place I've seen it is they just put out a new figure of the Shocker in Marvel Legends, and he does that so they can keep his gauntlets looking consistent.
That makes sense.
Yeah, these guys are really unique, really cool, and they're not the only army builders we've gotten, because we just got the Cogs, and there's been a rumor of Quantrons for a little while now.
Oh, I'd love to see Quantrons.
Yeah.
Quantron, like any of the original American-made henchmen are always so cool.
Could you imagine Terradrone figures?
Tyrannodrome figures would be nice. Stingwingers would be even better though. If they had the wings, if you could have the wing attachment, the Stingwingers would be amazing. But I think Quantrons might win out the most for me.
And going back to me being an SPD mark.
Yeah.
Crybots as a single release in a wave, and then a Pulse exclusive 2-pack of the orange head and the blue head.
I think that would work. I think that would be great. I would love to see that.
Because
I like that I've seen a number of different varieties of putty too.
I just brought 2 of the Fighting Spirit 2-pack putties.
Oh, okay.
Because I have 2 of them, and then I have 1 copy of the Pulse 2-pack. And
Okay.
there's been different patterns on each one.
Which is great, because they did have different patterns in the show, and it was only a few different patterns, but it helps it feel more like a varied army with very little real additional detail necessary.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is Mr. Fall Over here, who is probably part of the most contentious thing about the line overall, the monster figures.
I do love that. I'm sad that I haven't gotten this guy yet, because I'm so glad that we finally have a pumpkin wrapper figure.
I have him. I have King Sphinx. I don't have. We have Eye Guy and Pudgy Pig now.
Yep.
I want to get Pudgy Pig. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Sphinx, there's been a lot of figures of over the years, which is interesting considering he's not one of the ones that's appeared in a bunch of later episodes.
We had that back and forth on Twitter once, where I said he was the first monster, and you corrected me.
Yeah, I amended because he was technically the pilot episode monster, not in Day of the Dumpster, but in the earlier version of Day of the Dumpster when he was called Fly Guy.
But what I think what I was kind of going with there, and the reason I thought that is he is so early on.
He is.
I think he's a lot of people's the first monster of the week.
I've got a jigsaw puzzle with King Sphinx.
Because that's the thing they do with shows all the time when a new kids show comes around, is you just grab something from the first 5 episodes. Yeah. And you make merch based off of that.
Yeah. But I think that Pudgy Pig is probably more iconic in terms of, Pudgy Pig came back in a later episode. It was a much more prominent, well-remembered episode. Nobody really, I feel like Pressing Engagement isn't as well-remembered as an episode as Food Fight.
But the monsters are a fantastic concept. They're an integral part of the Power Rangers franchise.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people have had problems with them as figures because they're taller. They're significantly taller than the Rangers, and that bothers a lot of people because it's not accurate to the show. And I get that, but I like it from a toy guy standpoint because it makes them more intimidating.
I like it too, actually. I'm looking at him like he feels like a monster as opposed to just a guy.
And the reason I brought Pumpkin Wrapper over King Sphinx is because I think he's a better case of the paint is not super up to par with what you would want. A lot of people have been complaining there needs to be a lot more shading to make it accurate to the suit. Yeah,
King Sphinx is I think arguably an even worse example with because his nose and everything just doesn't look right with the minimal painting.
I think he looks okay, but I do get why people are bothered by him.
I'm also a little swayed because you've clearly done some work on this guy.
Because Pumpkin Wrapper was the one that actually bothered me when those first 2 were revealed.
Yeah, because now I remember he doesn't usually have. That's right.
This is Sharpie.
Yeah.
And like that initially I was kind of arguing with people on Twitter about it, going like, what, you don't own a Sharpie? But then I also realized, oh yeah, a lot of Power Rangers fans aren't hardcore toy guys who are going to think of that.
It's also just it feels weird to see a jack-o'-lantern style head without the black outlines. So much so that I forgot that even those parts were also Sharpie. I could see that there was shading that you'd done around the edges.
No, this comes stock.
Oh, this part is
yeah, and that's why a lot of people are so upset with this figure in particular. They want this shading on the whole figure.
Yeah, I'm surprised they decided to do that shading, but not the black. Because it feels like the black would be easier than that shading.
It does.
And that shading actually makes it look, creates a design inconsistency with the body. Because the body clearly has the same kind of ridges to it, but not that shading.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of us who are talking about this stuff just have no experience in the toy industry, so we can't really say. The thing is, I think it's just a lot of people were disappointed in it from the get-go. And there was a moment there where we thought the line was dead. We thought we weren't getting more Monsters figures, and the Wave 2 was canceled, and we were just getting Eye Guy. But now they're doing a deluxe line instead, which is each wave you get a monster and a ranger with a vehicle. So we're getting the first wave of that this summer, which is going to be Piranha's Head and a reissue of the In Space Blue Ranger, but now he's going to have the Galaxy Glider.
I love the Galaxy Gliders so
and
much.
I like that. I like that we're getting Galaxy Gliders.
Yeah.
But I saw that and I was like, oh, every other wave is going to be, here's a Space Ranger with a Galaxy Glider. And you already have that Space Ranger if you're into collecting this line.
You know what? Give me Damon with a jet jammer. Let's go for that next.
Yeah, I'd be into
change
that.
it up a little bit.
Because the leaked listing for the second wave of that, because I think we've got the next 2 waves of the regular line, and the next 1 wave of the deluxe line has been leaked. The wave 2, I forget what the monster's going to be, but it's going to be Wild Force Red Ranger plus vehicle. We don't know which vehicle it is. It could be the Savage Cycle. It could be the Wild Force Rider. I want the Wild Force
Rider. You gotta go for the Wild Force Rider. It took down Serpentera.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like that's the harder cut there. The Savage Cycle is like, it's fine.
It's cool, but it didn't
infamous.
take
out Serpentera.
That's the thing with Hasbro. Is
they're playing
like,
mind games.
They'll do those little reissues here and there because they do understand there's constantly new people getting into lines and things like that, and they all have their different wants and needs. Like with Star Wars right now, every Star Wars live stream, like half of the stuff they reveal is here's an older figure and a new way to get it with a few tweaks to it. And they also do that with Marvel, but not as much, I feel, where like they have their retro collection, which is half new figures, half stuff we already have, but now on a card back from the 90s. And they're even now doing that in a different way, which I feel is a way of phasing out the retro cards to go with their plastic-free packaging initiative. Okay. They're going to have a subline of X-Men Marvel Legends styled specifically after the cartoon that are coming in boxes designed to look like VHSs.
Yeah, which I think is cute. It's nice synergy with the coming revival of X-Men '97, which is still just wild to me that's happening. Yeah. Like everything from my childhood keeps coming back.
But like I could see us getting a Power Rangers line of retro style figures that are in VHS boxes sometime in the next year. That's something I would predict for the line going forward. And that's the other thing where like I think something that could potentially put a whole lot of people off of the line is straight up redoing figures from the ground up. Because that's a thing Hasbro has done with several other of their collector lines, like their Star Wars figures. There's been a lot of like, oh, this was way back at the beginning of the line when we first got the license. We weren't quite good at it yet. Let's redo this from the ground up. Here's a brand new version of it's a new figure of a version of Boba Fett that's already in this line, but it's better articulated, better detailed, this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
And it's like, that's nice, but I already have that. Should I get it and replace it, and then what do I do with this other one?
I feel like we're still... I feel like we're still early enough in the Lightning Collection figure line that we really shouldn't be seeing.
There's one where I would want it.
Yeah.
Doggy Kruger. The proportions on his arms. I was messing with him recently, and I noticed the proportions on his arms are way different to any other figure in the line.
Interesting. Like, I have a Doggy Kruger figure. I like my Doggy Kruger figure.
Oh, he's great.
He's a great figure. I will, but I could understand how he might be out of sync with other parts of the line.
And that being said, he's hard to get.
He's also he's a very different design from the rest of his team. So I feel like you could get away without having to go to bring him in line with the others. One thing that is interesting though is Doggy Kruger Lightning Collection versus original Doggy Kruger figure, because I have actually, when I was looking for that Trent figure earlier that I couldn't find, I do have a Doggy Kruger figure and Shadow Ranger figure. So not just Shadow Ranger, but also
because they made the Doggy Kruger
figure, and just those two head sculpts are just night and day.
Yeah, that new one on the Lightning Collection is so good.
The original Shadow Ranger figure was fine. I have no complaints about it. So it wasn't like, oh, I want to see like a better version of this figure. But that head sculpt that was the biggest selling point.
That's been a great thing about this line is there's a really good mix of like characters you would expect, characters who you don't necessarily want but you need for team completion, and then like the characters that make the hardcore fans go insane. Like brilliant choice in the first wave to have Doggy Kruger right alongside Tyler Navarro and Tommy Oliver.
That's true. That is true. And of course, Lord Zed is always a big seller.
And then in the second wave, I forget what the entire lineup was, but that was Magna Defender. And like, Magna Defender hadn't had a new figure in God knows how. We've talked a lot about the line and what's gone on with it so far. Obviously, the general points here are really good character selection, great articulation, hit or miss detail, but rarely is it so bad that it calls for a replacement. And when it does, Hasbro has been good about that.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the future, we've got some things coming up that we know about. We've talked about the next deluxe wave. I forget what the entire lineup of the next regular release wave is, but I do know we're getting Kira.
Okay.
And that'll put us one away from completing Dino Thunder.
Yeah.
And amazingly enough, the one we need is Tommy. We're getting Tommy last for Dino Thunder.
I'm starting to wonder if there's going to be like a Dimensions in Danger wave where we get like Tommy and Coda and like...
That could be a thing, but like my thing from day one has been Tommy and Zeltrax 2-pack.
That means the original Zeltrax figure, that was another one I spotted when I was over there. Not a bad figure. Surprisingly well sculpted. I would argue that the because I also have Snide and I know Snide is in the Sentai a derivation of Zeltrax.
Yeah.
I would say the original Zeltrax figure might actually be even better sculpted than the Snide figure.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's interesting to talk about this, because we've shown how they scale up with Marvel Legends, which is a good indicative of other Hasbro lines.
Yeah.
Bandai. If you're a Toku collector in general, and you buy Kamen Rider or Sentai or even Ultraman figures, it's not gonna work with these guys.
Oh, they're a little skinnier?
It's not. They're about the same build,
but a little smaller.
Yeah, it's at least a head smaller.
Is this maybe not quite a head, but at the very least, one unit of anime hair.
Yeah, if you're gonna put them together, you want to have the Lightning Collection figure crouching, I think.
Yeah.
So like this is the kind of thing, and I think they've stayed to this same general scale for Kamen Rider for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Like at least most of the Heisei era and now into Reiwa.
Well, the Lightning Collection overall has been a slightly larger scale than most of the classic figures. I believe, only by a little bit.
But like. That's definitely the thing. If you're doing Lightning Collection, you're doing it as its own thing or to work with other Hasbro lines. It's not necessarily going to work so well with other things.
I will say that I do tend to, on the shelf, I've got Ravi and Nate from Beast Morphers.
Yeah.
And I just put them next to Hiromu from Go Busters.
Yeah, because you've got that figure art.
I've got that figure art. Where did I get that? Oh, right, that. Thank you for that. But I feel like I can look at if I'm actually looking at it, I can notice how like my Hiromu is clearly Hiromu, whereas my Ravi is clearly Ravi. When it comes to we do tend to go a little bit heavier on the muscles. Although
they toned it down a lot compared to the Bandai of America lines.
The Bandai was very.
Like I think that's the whole reason. The Hasbro buyout even happened is a lot of people were expecting this new golden era when we got the legacy figures and the movie was coming out and all this, and then the movie didn't quite hit people's expectations.
Yeah.
And the legacy figures were good for what they were, but they weren't what people wanted. So it all just kind of crashed.
And they were also out of scale with things as well, because the legacy figures I think were more closer to 7-inch.
I suppose the final place really to go with this, to kind of wrap it up, is where we'd like to see this line go in the future. The kind of things we want to see coming out of it in the next couple of years.
Well, I think what we want to see is a bit more uniformity in the teams.
Consistency. Like, yes, the sculpted detail is great, but it should have been a deco by the others.
Maybe, you know what? Let's go with, like, just having them all be the exact same molds, except for the helmets. And let's go for, like, maybe, instead of 6 inches, let's go for, like, 8 inches tall.
I should have known.
Maybe something like this? I
should have known
like
you
this?
were going to start trolling me. I should have expected that.
I'm sorry. I've had this guy.
Oh no, those are great. Those are classic. I like those better than the head
for almost 30 years.
There's people...
And I'm sorry. It's funny to me that we see that now we have like that great diversity in the figures, but now we're getting inconsistency compared to back then, where the Pink Ranger would have this exact same body type.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Well, that was back when all the Power Rangers fans were kids and they didn't care. They just wanted figures of the Power Rangers. Now we're all adults and we're super picky.
Yeah. That being said, I'm still blown away by the articulation on these guys.
Oh, yeah. Like I was saying...
You got fingers.
People always talk about... When it comes to nostalgic Power Rangers figures, people always talk about the head flippers. Screw the head flippers. I like these things. I would buy these things if they weren't so hard to find, complete, and insanely expensive.
Yeah. But no, I do think consistency and quality control, I think, is the biggest thing that people are really looking for out of the Lightning Collection line right now. Like, it's definitely a step up from what we're used to. Unquestionably. I don't think anyone would argue that the Lightning Collection's not an improvement.
And personally speaking, it's been a dream come true. Yeah. Like, I vividly remember the day we found out that Power Rangers was not going to be... The toys weren't going to be made by Bandai anymore. I said, you know what? Pie in the sky, I want Hasbro. Hasbro are my guys. I love Hasbro. I've always been a Hasbro fan. Give it to Hasbro. But more realistically, if it goes to Mattel or Jazzwares, okay, that's still better than Bandai of America. An hour later, I open my phone and it says Hasbro, and I'm like, this is the greatest day of my life.
There you go.
Like, these are good figures. There's obviously been the issues, but it's been a great line so far, and I think there's a lot of great places they can go in the future. Like I said, I want my Tommy Zeltrax 2-pack. Yeah. We need your Dr. K figure.
Absolutely. Give me a Bulk and Skull 2-pack.
Yes.
I would love...
I don't know how you could reuse that tooling, but just getting them would be amazing.
I think that the release of Civilian Andros was a really interesting testing of the waters with something a little different.
Now, it didn't go great because that figure show formed and then over the holidays and then immediately got clearanced out.
Now you see, I've got one that was my Christmas gift this year, and like I haven't had time to play with any of my figures. I've been very busy. I do a lot of editing, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a father, and I'm super busy. But I love that they made Civilian Andros, and more Civilian figures I think would be really great deep cuts. And those are some of the things that I really respect from the Lightning Collection is the deep cuts.
Like, here's the thing. People have talked about like teams they want them to get to.
Yeah.
And like we've got a handful of teams complete now. We've got MMPR, we've got Zeo, we've got Space. There's other teams they obviously need to complete, like they're close to Dino, Thunder, and SPD, so let's get them done.
Yep.
I want Lightspeed Rescue. That's the next team I really want them to start, because I feel like those are solid designs. They're not the best, but they're solid. A lot of beloved characters in that season. The first American original Ranger.
That's true.
And some great civilian characters.
That is true.
I would love a Captain Mitchell figure.
That would be... I will admit there is probably less of a demand for most civilian mentors, but that would be great to see.
Could you imagine a Captain Mitchell and Ryan 2-pack?
Oh my god, that would be... That's one of the things that I do love about the 2-packs, is that they are choosing not for partnered characters, but for moments from the franchise. And that's one of the things I love about the Aisha Scorpina 2-pack. They did a 2-pack based around specifically the episode Goldar's Vice Versa, because that's the only time those two were even in the same season together.
Yeah, and then the next 2-pack they did, which just came out, is here's just both of Cat's Ranger forms. Because nobody's gonna buy reissues of these.
Right.
So Zeo didn't even get a single release. Pink. But it's fine, because like if you like Cat, you're gonna want both her Ranger forms.
Yeah, I think that's
Cat's a great character throughout the show, but like the big thing everybody remembers is a different shade of pink.
And she comes with a PC figure, which is great. You gotta have the little cat as a cat. I would love to see them experiment more with villains.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really interesting arena for them to
want
branch out into.
I want Monsters of the Week to continue. I want to see stuff from outside of MMPR.
Yes.
Because, like, I'm always hesitant to complain about MMPR overuse because it's like, I get why it's done, but I get why people are upset about it. But
I do feel like from a monster perspective, there's generally less of a demand outside of MMPR.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's
largely...
a lot of great designs from MMPR that can fit into other displays. Like, I know people who will look at certain figures that get revealed and go like, I'm not a Power Rangers fan, but I can put that with my Star Wars, or I could put that with my Marvel, or this or that.
Like, people want their, Bryan Cranston Snizzard, which was my first monster figure that I have up on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like there are too many people clamoring for Mr. Goorific from Turbo, who turned Cassie's dog into a love interest.
However, I will say, the first monster of the week I would think of outside of MMPR I'd want, Puzzler from Dino Charge. I just love that design, and like, even though that wasn't a great episode, he was a great monster of the week. He was a lot of fun.
And I think Dino Charge also has the benefit of they did have a monster line to reinforce those characters in people's minds.
Yeah. But like, I'm gonna keep going back to SPD. It's just my season.
Yeah.
But like, could you imagine a Broodwing figure or a Grum figure?
Grum especially, I think, would be... I would more so want a Grum figure.
More
over
figures
Broodwing.
of American original things.
Like a Rancic. A Rancic figure would be great.
Rancic and Nadira 2. I keep going to 2-packs, but
That's
Rancic
true.
and Nadira 2-pack would be so awesome.
Well, my go-to villain is Darkonda, as has been further reinforced as of late.
That brings me to my other big thing.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the only Hasbro toy line right now that has not got... Well, Fortnite. But Fortnite's brand new.
Okay.
Lightning Collection has not gotten a HasLab yet.
Fair enough.
You know what I want?
Dark Spectre?
HasLab, Dark Spectre. It's as big as the Galactus they just did. The extra stretch goals.
Yeah.
Remolds of Astronom and Ecliptor as their cyborg versions. And the first release of Dark Honda. Say Dark Honda will still come in the regular line, but make him a stretch goal as well.
Give me Dark Honda in a Velocifighter.
Yeah.
Like give me Dark Spectre with the Dark Fortress next to him and Dark Honda in a little Velocifighter.
Yeah.
Recreate that moment. That would be amazing.
And like maybe like a slightly alternate head to make him into Malagor. And
that's implying that they had any changes in the heads.
I feel like they're terrified of Turbo so much because they labeled this guy as in space. But
which is a little weird.
Could you imagine if they're like, and special 10,000 extra backers goal, you get a Malagor head, and it's just the same head.
No, you know what would be really funny? It'd be really funny if they re-released Phantom in the Turbo line. But with the bronze.
They could do that. I could see them doing that, and I honestly wouldn't be too upset.
Yeah. You know what just occurred to me would be a gorgeous little set of figures.
What?
If they were to go for the comics, the emissaries.
Yeah, that's the other thing. People keep talking about like comic designs that they want. They've been saying certain things here and there. People have been saying for the longest time, like, we just got the Tyranno Century and it even hasn't technically released yet. But a lot of people want the other centuries.
The Tyranno Century looks great.
But like a lot of people want the redesigns from the Pink miniseries. Now a lot of people want the Omega Rangers, or
I could see Omega being far more likely than the Pink series.
Now I'll admit I don't care for those designs too much, so I wouldn't buy those figures. But if it happened, it would be great.
Oh yeah, I'm never going to be upset by additional options when it comes to figures you can have. Like, I know that I'm not a big collector.
No.
I don't tend to invest my money that way, and I'm currently at a stage in my life where I'm just like, every new thing I buy, I'm like, where do I put this? I've been watching Power Rangers for almost 30 years, so that stuff adds up. Even if you only get one figure per season. Okay, now you have 30 figures. Where do you put them?
And I've told you, I for the first 2 years of this line was very much trying to keep pace.
Yeah.
I got just about everything that came out, and then I just burned out hard, and I had to reassess what do I want. And it's like, okay, I will go team complete on my childhood seasons, which is Dino Thunder and SBD, and I will get all the reds. And other than that, I'm just going to pick and choose interesting designs.
I love how your childhood seasons are like my college seasons.
Yeah.
I've got, kids in my class. I'm a high school teacher. So I've got kids who are like 16, 17 who are saying they grew up with samurai. Samurai is what they remember from when they were little kids. And I'm like, okay.
And that's right for me, because samurai is when I got back into it. And I got out around Overdrive. Yeah. And then I came back around samurai.
At least you managed to double back and take care of RPM, which is...
But this was a bit of a different one for my channel, but something I've been wanting to do for quite a while, because obviously we're both friends, we have similar interests, and the Lightning Collection is a great place for us to meet in the middle. And it's also one of those things where, though I've done a couple videos on it in the past, I never felt like I really gave the line as a whole its due. Right. And so getting to do that with you has just been really nice. And so, that's great. Folks, if you don't know, Jake makes videos about Power Rangers. He calls himself Database Ranger. He's also the Phantom Ranger. He's also a journeyman in filmmaking. This guy does so many jobs on a series that I adore, Database Rangers Power Reviews, and he knows this, but you may or may not know it. So if you haven't already, I'll have a link down to his channel and his social media down in the description. Go check him out. And thank you for watching from the future, where I've still got some unpacking to properly do, because for some reason my camera didn't record the last 2 minutes of footage where I got Jake to sign that sealed Phantom Ranger figure, because he's technically the actor for the Phantom Ranger in a sense in my headcanon. So, great time making this one. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like on this video. Please comment down below with some of your thoughts on the stuff we talked about in it. Subscribe and ring the bell in order to enable notifications to get every future video I put out. And no matter what, guys, just keep going.